Dear Naruto Lemon fans, I'm thrilled to invite all of you to my Boosty channel, where you can enjoy exclusive Naruto Lemon scenes in a comfortable and supportive community. Choose from various subscription tiers, from Mini Lemon to God Lemon, and gain access to unique content tailored just for our fans. Plus, subscribers to over Naruto Lemon and God Lemon will receive special mentions in my videos. Support my channel and dive deeper into the world of Naruto today. Dare. Sighed a girl of about 16 with long, light-colored hair braided into two ponytails and blue eyes. Her dark face was adorned with symmetrical whisker stripes, 3 on each cheek, giving her a distinctive, fox-like appearance. She sat on a spread-out blanket, on which lay a basket and some food. A light breeze blew, ruffling her light-colored hair. Her eyes were slightly closed against the bright rays of the sun. "Why are you sighing, Naruto?" asked another girl with short, bright pink hair and green eyes. She popped a grape in her mouth and looked at her friend carefully. "I'm just wondering where I can find a guy who's sensitive, kind, and calm," the blonde started to say, but faltered when she caught her friend's wary gaze. "Don't look at me with such a scary look, Sakura. I think I already told you I don't need your Sasuke team," the blonde, whose name is Naruto, protested. Then perhaps Niji-sama would be suitable," asked another girl with long, dark blue hair, pale skin, and lavender eyes. She was a bit timid and quiet, so they barely heard her. However, this character trait didn't make her weak, quite the opposite. This girl was one of the village's strongest kunoichi. "Oh, right. He's nice and sensitive, of course, but he's too calm and, I'd even say, boring. I need him to be cheerful too, you know, Hinata-chan," the blonde explained, thoughtfully raising her head to the cloudless sky. "Maybe then, Kiba?" asked the third girl, with long blonde hair pulled back into a ponytail with long bangs. She had greenish-blue eyes that sparkled with malice and mischief. "No, he's just stupid. I don't argue, he's fun to be around, but that's all. I don't want to date a guy who's just a bit lost in his thoughts." "So he's out, Ino," Naruto said, shaking her head back and forth, quickly dismissing the possibility. It was all wrong. Everyone the girls mentioned didn't fit her standards. She wanted him to be cheerful, sensitive, kind, caring, well-read, calm, strong. Sure, Naruto was the strongest kunoichi in the world, but she wanted someone to be there for her in difficult times, to support her, to protect her if she found herself in a desperate situation. But where could she find someone like that? She felt like she was missing something. That the guy she needed was always there, somewhere nearby, just a hand away, and he was right there. Naruto herself couldn't understand this feeling. She'd gone on solo missions, talked to her Tusan, consulted her closest and best friend, asked her older brother, but she still hadn't understood anything. And now, sitting in a clearing on a weekend with her friends, she was discussing guys and searching for the one who fit her idea of the perfect guy. "Shika?" Ino asked, under the obvious jealous gaze of the girl sitting next to her, her blonde hair braided into 4 pigtails. "Ino, what's wrong?" "Shika is too lazy." "I don't argue, it's nice to look at the clouds with him. He's smart and you can ask him for advice." "But this isn't it," Uzumaki said, accompanied by a sigh of relief. "Then, Kankuro?" asked the girl with 4 ponytails, who had been looking jealous just a moment ago. "No offense, Tamari-san, but my father wouldn't understand. Besides, I don't know him very well, and those poison dolls of his, brr." The blonde shuddered at the mention of dolls and poison. Tamari merely nodded, not at all offended, as she had almost the same opinion of her younger brother. "Listen, maybe you want a guy like your brother?" Sakura asked, looking thoughtfully at her friend. Naruto considered the question. Perhaps that was it. She just needed someone like Menma. Someone as close and dear as him. Then she remembered someone who had been her bodyguard for as long as she could remember, and she immediately blushed. "Well, maybe you're right. Maybe I need someone just like my brother." Uzumaki wondered, blushing slightly. "Why are you blushing?" "It's just gotten a little hot," Naruto said, looking away slightly. She was about to ask something when a male voice suddenly sounded above her head. "Then maybe I'd be a good fit for your boyfriend?" asked the same male voice. Naruto flinched in surprise, but after a minute, she pulled herself together, her eye twitching. "Shisui," the blonde exclaimed, accompanied by her friend's friendly laughter and the guy's playful smile. 2 months had passed since that ill-fated picnic. Shisui had begun courting his protégé, as he'd long loved her but couldn't quite get close, believing she viewed him as an older brother or mentor. However, after that conversation and an ill-timed remark when Shisui decided to intervene, the Uchiha began courting the feisty blonde. At first, it was simply innocent invitations to stroll around the village, then invitations to movies and small but cozy restaurants. He even arranged a couple of romantic evenings on Hokage Rock, which offers a beautiful view of Konoha. During her missions outside the village, the Uchiha had her back a couple of times when she was ambushed. Naruto herself eagerly accepted all invitations, meetings, and dates. She spent several hours getting ready each time to look presentable and nice, and blushed when Shisui gave her flowers or other gifts. Menma made snide comments about her changes, but deep down he was happy for his little sister. Minato himself wasn't particularly happy when he learned where his precious daughter was going and with whom. He grumbled a lot, expressed indignation, and threatened to kill her suitor, but never took action. He understood that Uchiha Shisui was the best candidate for his daughter. But Kurama, the nine-tailed fox, wouldn't shut up for a minute. He absolutely loathes the Uchiha, and here his Jinchuriki was accepting the advances of one of those red-eyed ones. He was a constant source of rage, constantly snapping, muttering, ranting, and offering to rip out the eyes of this cursed clan, but Naruto steadfastly endured all his attacks. Until Shisui asked her out. The fox got so worked up that Naruto had to limit his chakra from his own to avoid hearing Kurama's voice for a while. It happened after 6 months of courtship. On one of the days off her father had given her, Shisui had invited her the previous evening to the Hokage mountain when it was getting dark. Naruto agreed, promising to be there on time. After saying goodbye, Uzumaki ran into her house and headed to her room, greeting her brother on the way. Her father, as always, would be delayed at the residence due to the upcoming Chunin exams, which were about to take place in their village. "Why are you so happy, Imuto?" asked Menma, sitting on the couch and writing something on some papers. "Oh, Shisui invited me to the Hokage mountain tomorrow evening. I wonder what he'll come up with this time?" Naruto asked herself as she climbed the stairs. "He's been inviting you out a lot. It's odd, don't you think?" the blonde asked sarcastically, looking up from his papers and looking at his younger sister with a sly expression. "Mind your own business, Enai-san. Just sit there and fill out your report," the girl exclaimed indignantly, quickly running up to the second floor and slamming the door to her room. It really pisses her off when her relatives start interfering in her relationships. Having calmed down a bit, Naruto took a bath, washed her face, combed her long hair, and went to bed, as she had to get up early the next day. The next day, Uzumaki rose to the sound of her alarm. After quickly rinsing and washing her face, she braided her hair into a thick braid, put on her usual outfit, and dashed out of the room. Everyone was still asleep, so she quietly snuck into the kitchen, quickly made breakfast for 3, ate herself, and then quietly left the house. It was just beginning to dawn outside, and the shops were just opening. Taking a deep breath of the fresh morning air, Uzumaki walked toward Sakura's house, her friend and classmate. Not even considering the possibility that she might still be asleep. Half an hour later, Naruto stood outside Haruno's house. Climbing up to the second floor, Uzumaki knocked on the door. She had to do this several times before the door opened and a sleepy, pink-haired girl appeared on the threshold. Looking at the one who had woken her up, she was surprised, as she hadn't expected Naruto to be awake so early. "Uzumaki, did you check the time?" Sakura asked, rubbing her sleepy eyes as she let her friend into the house. "Sorry, but I need your help urgently," the blonde exclaimed quietly, knowing Sasuke was sleeping in Sakura's house. She sensed his chakra as she approached. Haruno raised an eyebrow in surprise, pouring tea for herself and her friend. "Help? And what does it consist of?" Sakura asked, placing mugs and cookies on the table. "You see, Shisui invited me to the Hokage mountain this evening. I need to wear something nice and decent. And also makeup and hair. Naruto said, looking away and sipping some tea. So what's the problem? You seem to be able to handle it yourself. And you have plenty of clothes. No, Naruto waved her head back and forth, setting her mug on the table. I feel like today will be something special. And those clothes I have. Shisui already saw them. And anyway. Sakura, help me, will you? Naruto began to stutter, constantly looking away. And finally, she raised her head and looked at her friend with pleading eyes. Okay, I'll just warn Sasuke-kun and get myself together, she said, heading up to the second floor. Sakura came down half an hour later, after which they immediately set out on their planned errands. First, they went to a clothing store, where they bought her a light cornflower blue dress, a small white shawl-like cape, since it would be chilly in the evening, and white sandals. Next, they headed to a hairdresser, where she got a simple, matching hairstyle. Afterward, they applied light makeup, revealing Naruto's full beauty. It all took them all day. Naruto had only an hour left to go home and warn his brother. At the appointed time, Naruto appeared at the Hokage mountain, where Shisui was already waiting for her. He approached the girl, looked her over from head to toe, and smiled sweetly. You look beautiful, Naru-chan, the Uchiha said, his voice slightly hoarse and slightly quiet, sending shivers down the blonde's spine. She didn't even notice that the boy had called her something different than usual. The Uchiha walked behind Naruto and tied a black blindfold over her eyes. Do you trust me, Naru-chan? The boy asked, whispering into the girl's ear. She could only nod and take his outstretched hand in response. They walked like that for no more than 10 or 15 minutes, and when they arrived and the blindfold was removed, Naruto gasped. A clearing, strewn with a multitude of flowers, appeared before her. A single tree, standing almost in the center of all this wealth, spread its branches in a way that created a fairy tale-like atmosphere. Beneath this tree, a blanket was spread, on which lay fruit, a bottle of wine, and candles. Little fireflies flew everywhere, lending the place even more magic. This is a beautiful and wonderful place, Shisui. Everything is so beautiful and magical. The girl said breathlessly, looking at the boy with shining eyes. He only smiled brightly, inviting her to sit on the blanket. They chatted quietly, ate fruit, and drank wine. The girl's soft, ringing laughter and the boy's infectious laughter could be heard, their bright smiles and cheerful, beaming eyes could be seen by a stranger if there was anyone else in the clearing. They were oblivious to everything around them, happily spending time together. After a while, a quiet, peaceful silence fell over the clearing. Naruto smiled sweetly, and Shisui gathered the courage to utter a few words that would take their relationship to the next level. Naru-chan, can I ask a question? Shisui asked, breaking the silence. Really? What's the question, Shisui? The girl asked, looking at the guy through half-lowered eyelashes. Will you be my girlfriend? He asked, a question he found so nerve-wracking. Uchiha held his breath, awaiting the answer. Naruto's blue eyes widened, staring at him in disbelief. When the meaning of the question dawned on her, she threw her arms around Shisui's neck, immediately kissing him on the lips. Uchiha, unfazed, quickly took the initiative, deepening the kiss. It was tender, timid, affectionate. And at the same time passionate and long-awaited. They weren't sure how much time had passed, but they only pulled away when they were out of breath. Having caught his breath, Shisui decided to clarify. So I take it this means, yes. Uchiha looked into the girl's eyes, waiting for an answer. Of course, and kissed him again. Words of love weren't spoken, but they didn't need to be, they already knew how they felt for each other. Naruto had been capricious and bratty since childhood. As she grew older, the tantrum subsided, replaced by pranks. She calmed down a bit after graduating from the academy, but her calm didn't last long. Her mother, Kushina, had a temper that overpowered her father, Minato. She was quarrelsome, often irritated, and shouted loudly, whether or not she was being inappropriate. She got upset, staged boycotts, and constantly demanded training. She butted in everywhere, both where she belonged and where she didn't. And when she got angry, she ran for cover. In such moments, she was the spitting image of Kushina, fortunately for her blonde hair. And Shisui knew all these flaws in his girlfriend. When he started courting her, she was sweet, constantly blushing, shy, and looking away. Because it was her first experience. Especially when a guy she'd long since subconsciously liked, if not loved, showed affection for her. She only realized this when he started inviting her on walks. So it was all unfamiliar and strange for her. But then, when she got used to it, when they started dating officially, her personality returned. Naruto threw tantrums over practically everything. He looked in the wrong direction, other girls looked at him, and he returned their gaze. She monitored his every move and threw tantrums if she noticed him talking to other girls for more than 5 minutes. She was terribly jealous, but she couldn't do anything about it, even though she understood that in their line of work, it was impossible not to see other girls. Shisui also knew everything about his girlfriend. He was jealous of the other boys around her, but not as openly as Naruto herself. Because he understood that she wasn't interested in them, and that Uzumaki herself saw them solely as comrades, good friends, and brothers. The Uchiha also understood everything and tolerated her tantrums, constantly smoothing things over and calming her down. Even Minato envied his fortitude and calm. Menma was surprised and made sarcastic remarks, and Kurama even respected the red-eyed Uchiha. Shisui himself even thought it was cute and funny. He even called her a cute hysterical woman in his head, but out loud he was afraid. Otherwise, he might get hit on the head with a cast-iron frying pan, and then he'd have to sleep on the couch for 2 weeks. And now, Naruto was getting worked up about him smiling at, as she put it, some red-haired bum. He silently listened to her hysterical outburst, which she had started out of nowhere. And then, suddenly, the Uchiha realized he'd never told his girlfriend words of love. So he decided to say it now, just in a slightly odd way. God, I fell in love with a hysterical woman, Shisui said, looking at Naruto, who was furious at his words. Am I hysterical? I'm not. Uzumaki exclaimed, as a cast-iron frying pan mysteriously appeared in her hand. I said I love you, and all you heard was hysterical, Uchiha said calmly, glancing nervously at the frying pan. Naruto stopped, blinked, looked at the frying pan, turned her gaze to the satisfied boy, and said. What? Uzumaki asked, tossing her favorite to the ground for good measure. I said I love you, my sweet hysterical girl, the brown-haired man repeated. And then a powerful blow landed on his head, knocking him out instantly. But he managed to hear Uzumaki's words and see her tender smile. I love you too. And that's for calling me hysterical. You'll be sleeping on the couch for 2 weeks. After these words, he passed out completely. And Naruto, accompanied by Kurama's comments about Uzumaki's actions, headed to the kitchen to prepare dinner, humming a cheerful tune. This is what can come out of a get-together with friends, an innocent conversation about guys and an overly curious Uchiha. And what will happen to them next is another story.